All right, so EdTech Dialect, blueprinting your courses, you are the architect. So I'm going to spend some time talking about what Blueprint is, give you a little bit of backstory on what you're currently probably doing to move content from one course to the other, and how Blueprint can help you out. So your current situation, most of you, if you need to move content, you have to either ask me to do it, or you have to do it yourself, with the kicker being you can only move content to an upcoming course of yours if it's from a previous course of yours. If it's not, you don't have access to it. You have to ask them for permission and try and find that content. That's all well and good, but there's a better way to do it. And oftentimes that puts you in a position where you have to wait on somebody. You sit down to try and work on your content for the upcoming term, and then you realize I don't have any content. I have to wait for somebody else to help me out with content. That's not cool. That's not how it should be, and Blueprint can help with that. So you can see that GIF that I have going up there. There's the current method right there. As you take the original content, you move it from course to course to course. With Blueprint, you have the original content, and boom, it's synced to all of the different courses that are out there. So a much easier process. The beauty in it too is that if you have to update content during the term, you don't have to go find that content and move it to each one of your courses that you're teaching. You just add it to the Blueprint course or adjust it in the Blueprint course, hit sync, and it goes out to all of your different courses, just like that. All right. So what I'm going to do during this overview is I'm going to talk a little bit about Blueprint, some pluses and minuses, some things to be aware of. There's a lot of strategy that goes in with Blueprint, and I'm sure there's a lot of strategy that we haven't even thought about yet in terms of Blueprint, and it's something that we're going to kind of figure out as we go. As crazy as that sounds, it's something that we're just going to have to do because Blueprint is relatively new. And so with Blueprint, it's a matter of associating the courses. So you take your Blueprint course. It's just a regular old Canvas shell that you're used to seeing. You import your content into that Blueprint course, and then you associate it with the upcoming courses or the current courses. And so fall term, for example, or actually a better example would be as we prepare for the spring term, we find all the Biology 101 courses, and we associate it with our Biology 101 Blueprint course. Okay? And that's all we have to do, and then we sync the content. Okay? So in addition to that, individual instructors can still add content. So if you're in charge of a Blueprint course and you're sending it out to all the sections and you have some adjuncts teaching some of those sections, those adjuncts can still add content to their course. But the content that you send out to them, okay, that stuff is there for them. They don't have to worry about getting content. It's there. If they need to add some assignments, if they want to add some information or some content pages or discussions or whatever they want to add, they can still add those items to their individual course. But in most cases, they can't touch the locked Blueprint content that has been synced. The beautiful thing about this is it helps to maintain consistency across courses. If you're teaching a course and you go from one to the next, it's going to be somewhat consistent. Yes, the individual instructor can put a different spin on the course and add some of their own content, but for the most part, at MCC, Biology 101 will be Biology 101 as you go from section to section, which is a good thing. It's going to be easier for adjuncts. A lot of times we are hiring adjunct instructors right as the term is about to begin. And they're like, I don't have any content, I have to develop my content. That can be a headache. If you have a Blueprint type setup where we know that content is in that shell and all they have to do is A, come in and teach the course and then worry about adapting their content to their teaching style, we're doing better for the students that we serve and for the adjuncts that we're putting in that position. We can easily and automatically update content. Let's say we see something in the course that isn't correct or needs to be updated or deleted or adjusted. We can do that with a click or two of a button and syncing it across all of our different courses. We can lock content. So if there's assignments and content pages that you need to have in the course, no matter who's teaching it, if you're a department head, for example, you can lock that content. You can lock points, you can lock the content, you can lock due dates if you wanted to do that. Okay, so and I'm going to show you some of that stuff as well. You can post announcements across multiple sites. So you can include announcements in your Blueprint course and sync them out to all of the different courses if you have a course-wide announcement that has to go out to different sections. And the beautiful thing about this too is you can standardize course settings. So one of the things that we talk about a lot is limiting the amount of course navigation items that students will see. Well, we can set it in the blueprint so that there's only a couple items, and then instructors, as they need to, they can adjust those and add more items, as opposed to the other way around where they're in charge of deleting all those individual items. So let's take a little look into what the setup of a blueprint course is, how we associate those different courses. Some of these things you have to have admin access to do, and I'll make sure to point those things out. But just imagine yourself with your course, your master course is essentially what a blueprint course is, and how you would send that out to the different courses that you are in charge of, or your future courses as you go along if you're just teaching one course. So what we do is we start with a course shell. All right. In this case, I have created what's called Blueprint EdTech 101. This is nothing more than a basic blank course shell that you see at the beginning of a term. Okay, it's no different. And what I did was I went in and I imported content to my course. So maybe you taught a previous course, you will then import content into this course. Okay, much like you would if you were teaching a spring course and needed your content in that shell. The only difference is now what we're going to do is you're going to ask me or another admin to go into the course settings and enable it as a blueprint course. As you can see right here, there is this line. If you are an instructor and not an admin, okay, here's that same course right here, but only now I'm in as just an instructor. If I go to those course settings, okay, you see that you don't have the option. Okay, it's just a yes or no as to whether it's a blueprint course or not. So you need to go to an administrator, a Canvas administrator, to enable that. Once I enable that, or once an admin enables it, you have a couple different options. You need to define how you're going to lock content. Okay, and I'll leave that up to you as the instructor. So you can define content as locked just as a general locked items, all items, assignments, discussions, content pages. They'll just be locked by content. Or you could also say, hey, this is worth 20 points. I don't want you to change it. We're going to lock the points as well. Okay. Due dates are tough because our classes all meet on different days for the most part, so I would avoid that. The same thing can be said about available dates. So if you want just general locked items, that's the way you'd go. If you want to lock content by type, you can get more specific, and you can lock only assignments or or discussions. And for each one, you can decide what you want to lock. Okay, so there's a lot of options here, and the biggest takeaway I want you to take from this is before you actually sync content across courses, have a plan. Okay, because going back and readjusting these things is a mess. It's a nightmare. Okay, and that's not to scare you away from putting this to use, but just make sure that you have a plan in place. So maybe less locked items or less locked rules, I guess you'd call them, is better. For the most part, we generally go, so far in our use of Blueprint, we go with just general locked items and then content and points. And once I do that, I save that, and nothing's really going to change, okay? Other than the fact that now you will start to see this blue thing over here. You as the instructor of the course, okay, if you are an instructor in the Blueprint course, will see this. You also have the ability to sync once we associate courses with that. And that's my next step. So now that I have a Blueprint course set up, okay, and we can go back to that instructor view, and if I refresh this, it should now say Blueprint course, yes. We know that we're ready to roll. Yep, and that's also signified by the fact that you as this person as an instructor has access to a Blueprint area. But there aren't any courses associated with this Blueprint course yet. So we're going to do that now. The association also has to happen with admin access. So this is something you'll have to ask me to do or someone that's admin in your program.
Kevin, when you sync with
Just be mindful that some adjuncts or some instructors that you might be syncing with know how to do course copies. So it's very important that if you are bringing some of that content in, that you know that they didn't already do their course copy. And if they did, it's not going to be the same stuff that you're going to be syncing with it. A Blueprint sync does not overwrite their content. It will only overwrite Blueprint content. And so if I go back to my view as an admin, you notice that I have this associations area. And so I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to go ahead and add these EdTech sample courses that I have set up. Okay, and I want to make sure that I set them up for fall 18. In order to sync, the courses must be in the same sub-account, which in most cases they will be. But just before we begin doing that, I want to show you, if I go to the dashboard here, this instructor, this fake instructor, is the instructor of all of these courses that I'm going to associate. And just to show you, there is no content in these courses right now. Okay, so if I open them up, you're going to see they're just plain old blank courses, much like you would see at the beginning of a term before you bring content into it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to associate these courses. Know this, when I associate these courses, they will sync automatically. Okay, so anything that I have in this blueprint course is going to sync into these courses. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that, associate it, and just like that, all that content should sync over there. Now, if I leave this area, I'm going to go back to my course. A couple things, and you can see that it's processing right now, and while that's processing, I'm going to talk a little bit. One of the things that you need to be aware of is you're not going to want your content in your blueprint course published, because if it's published, it's going to go over to those associated courses published as well. Okay, and your instructors that are teaching those courses might not be very happy with you. All right, so be aware of that. That goes for the course publish as well. All right, so because course settings go over with a sync. So please make sure that your content is not published unless, I guess it's your decision. Just be aware of that. So now that we have associated those courses and the content has actually synced, we see these new icons here. Okay, and I'm in the master course, the blueprint course right here, and I can see the content that is locked. Since we said that we want it to be locked by content and points, all of these items are going to be locked. Now I can go back through as the blueprint teacher, okay, and I can unlock items. This doesn't mean that they won't sync over there. It just means that the instructors that are teaching those courses have the ability to make changes to content and points because I just unlocked them.
You unlocked them in the blueprint.
I unlocked them in the blueprint course, yes. Okay, so if we journey back over to one of our courses, we should see content in those courses now. And there it is. Okay, and you can also see that there's icons over here on these items, and it tells that instructor about those items, whether they're locked or whether they can make adjustments to them. So you can see this locked quiz right here. Okay, has a locked icon. There's a content page right here for career resources, and I'm in that instructor view. Okay, I can't change the content. Look, there's no edit button here. I don't have the ability to adjust this. Okay, I can publish it though because it's not currently published. If I go to an item that's not locked, so this week 1 overview, you see that I don't have that icon there, and I can actually go into that and I can make changes to it by clicking on the edit. An unlocked item here, if I make a change to it, becomes my item. It will not change it in the blueprint. It also becomes my item because I talked about having the ability to make updated changes. Okay, so now as the instructor, once all the courses are associated, you basically have free reign of what you want to do. Okay, so I am the instructor in this course. Pretend I don't have admin access. I can make a change. So let's say that, oh, look at this, look at my course settings here. I don't like that the students have access to all of those items. So I go into settings, and then I go into navigation, and I want to really slim down what's available to the students here. This might take a second, but I want to get rid of a bunch of these items so that we really, because everything's available in the modules anyways, so they don't need access to any of these things right here. We got to leave simple syllabus. Oops. There we go. That's good enough. So I save that. And I also want to adjust my home page because I think right now My home page is set to course training. Actually, it is set to modules. I didn't change that back. I was supposed to change that for this training. But in any case, if I were to change the home page, that's something else that will sync. So you can make sure that the home page is whatever you want it to be. So now that I made those changes, I have the ability to sync. But before I do that, I want to make sure that I click on Include Course Settings. Okay? And I can also choose to send a notification. One thing that you should be aware of if you start doing if you start using BluePrints, there is a notification option in your notification settings for Blueprint updates. So if you are running BluePrints, anybody that is affected by it, from you who is in charge of the Blueprint to the instructors that are teaching in a Blueprint course, need to be aware that they can get notifications if something gets updated. So I hit sync, and that will update those course navigation items that I just updated. Okay, and you can see that it's done, and I should be able to head back over. Should be able to refresh this, and a lot more items should be gray now. Should be. Okay, and you can see that I only have a few items that are now darkened, meaning that those are the ones that the students can see. Okay, so instructors, any instructor, these cannot be locked. Course setting options cannot be locked. So any instructor can go in and say, hey, I want my students to be able to view the discussion area. They can go into navigation and change those around and make those visible again. Okay. I mentioned you can get rid of things. So maybe you decide that you don't want something. Maybe you want to change the attendance 1 option, for example. You go in here. Oops, I'm in the wrong course. You go into attendance 1, and you need to change that across all the courses. You want to change the point value. Instead of it being 30, you want to change it to 20. Go ahead and click Save. One thing to keep in mind too is you don't ever want to have students in your Blueprint course. Okay, you don't add students to a Blueprint course. Meaning that your Blueprint course has to be a separate course shell from all of the courses that you're teaching. So I changed that point value. Let me just go back to my module area, and I'm also going to adjust a module. We're now in session 2, and so I want to drag that to the top so that that's the first item they see. Come on, work with me. There we go. And as the instructor, I'm going to go over here and sync that. And I don't need to do the course settings again because I already did that. And when I sync that, that goes out to all of those different courses. Keep in mind that that's going to not just the one that we're viewing over here, but all of these different courses. Okay, so if I refresh this, that content should appear. Okay, if I refresh this, it should go from 30 points here to 20 points. Didn't do it. Don't fail me. There we go. Okay, you can see that that changed, and that will change in all of the courses. If I go to the home page here, which is my module area, we should also see that that module has been moved. The week 2 or the session 2 should be up at the top. And so all of those things change like that. So a couple things. Make sure that you're communicating. Make sure that you're planning this out. Okay, what do you want locked? What does need to be locked? If you make updates, are you going to make updates all at once? Will you make updates as you go and as you see a need for it? These are all things that you need to think about, because keep in mind that if you have adjuncts or you have other instructors that are teaching these courses and you're making changes to them, that can be confusing. Okay, they think something's in one place, they go to teach the class and it's not there. All right, so how you make changes is something that you're going to have to think about. Okay, be aware that you need to communicate with those that are going to be using these courses that are affected by a Blueprint, that they should update their notification settings. All right, that's something that's very important. So if a change does happen, they're notified of it. It wouldn't hurt to have a department training, just maybe a stand-up meeting or a quick sit-down to kind of go over the ins and outs of what is happening. You're going to have content added. You don't have to import content because it's going to be synced and taken care of for you, and here is what you can expect. Like I said, when you sync those courses, when you associate those courses, the content syncs. Okay, there's no way of stopping that. You can't just, well, I'm going to set up the blueprint right now, and then later on I'll get the content going. Okay, when you associate the courses, the content in the master course will sync to all of your courses. So that's something you need to be aware of, and definitely make sure that that content is not published, because once you publish it, especially if the course is published, the students are going to see all this stuff. Okay, so if it's quizzes or something like that, they're going to have the ability to take those before it's time. Quizzes and discussion settings are a little bit, I don't know, wonky, if you want to call them that. And it's not really something that I need to cover right now, but if you do want to put Blueprint courses to use, we can sit down and talk about it a little bit more as far as the settings for those. Benefits and challenges. You're going to see a significant productivity improvement, meaning you don't have to go through and copy this course, and then copy this course, and then copy this course. It's going to make things a whole lot more efficient for you in the fact that once these things are associated, and you can see I associated 4 courses, 4 sections of a course, I should say, in what, 10, 15 seconds. Okay, so it didn't take long, and then once they're associated, they're associated. Okay, the content updates, it copies over, and anytime I need to make any changes, it happens. If you use LTI tools, things like textbook integrations, that's going to be something that we're going to have to talk about and look at to make sure that it works. It varies from integration to integration. So if you use Cengage or you use McGraw-Hill, it might be different in terms of what that looks like as far as the sync goes. In order to sync the content, you must be an instructor in the master or the blueprint course. So the individual instructors of your courses, as long as they don't have access to that master course, are not going to be able to sync that content or update that content. They're only going to have access to updating the content in their individual section of the course. Lockable content. That's a great feature in the fact that you can make sure things are locked down in there and they stay consistent across all the courses that we offer, the sections of that course. And then the announcements feature that I already mentioned. It is going to take a little bit of a learning curve, but it's really not too much. It's relatively simple. It's very easy to pick up, especially since you don't have to worry about doing all the associating and stuff like that. It's pretty much, once you get your content in your master course and you get it aligned as you want, you just keep syncing it as you need to. Group assignments, if you use those, which I'm guessing not a lot of people do, that's going to take some more configuration. So that's like the quizzes and the discussion settings that we can talk about on another day. The buggy initial release, that we're past that, so that doesn't really pertain to this session at all. And the good news is that I'm here to support any issues that you have, and I'll work with you and Canada support as needed should we need to do that. So I am happy to walk with you each step of the way. And so I think I hit on these all pretty hard. The no students are allowed in the blueprint shell, obviously. There's no need for that because that is just a place where you store your content. Okay, and you don't have to worry about, well, is my most updated version of this course the spring 18 or was it the fall 17? I can't really remember because you have a blueprint shell now, and that's where everything is going to go. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that anymore because a lot of times when I do course copies, sometimes instructors are like, well, I don't remember which one was my most updated one, and there was one that I had the content in that I just updated. It's something that you don't have to worry about. And I think that's pretty much the basics of it. If you want to sit down and set up some blueprint courses, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know. Other than that, thanks a lot for attending today.